I recently acquired a new Z-Grills 700D3 pellet smoker. It arrived in these two boxes, the larger of the two being incredibly heavy. The whole thing comes massively disassembled, which means I gotta put it all together. It's a relatively straightforward assembly, but there are a ton of parts and a bunch of steps. So in this video, I'm gonna go step by step through the entire assembly, as well as the initial startup and burn-in process. And I didn't start out this video intending to replace the electronic controller panel, but due to the one I received being bad right out of the box, I'll unfortunately be showing that too. So after unboxing all the different parts and stripping them of their packaging, I laid everything out on the floor to get a full picture of all the components that I have to assemble, and also make it easier to find each part as I go through each page of the assembly manual. So let's build this thing. Step 1. Assembling the bottom base. With the bottom platform of the grill's base turned upside down, I'll install the 4 wheels. These are threaded and just screw into the holes at the base's 4 corners. Note that 2 of the casters are locking casters and 2 are not. These are meant to go in particular positions, with the locking casters going in what will be the back side of the grill and the non-locking ones going in front. Then I'll flip the base platform right side up and screw in the little magnet catch mounting plate. And I didn't think to show it here, but all of the screws and other hardware are included in a sort of blister pack that's labeled to make each fastener pretty easy to identify. Anyway, once this little plate is screwed in, I'll just pop the 2 magnet catches into place in the rectangular cutouts. These little magnets keep the base cabinet doors closed once those are installed. Step 2. Mounting the body frame / cabinet base. First, the left side of the base cabinet gets attached to the bottom base with 2 screws. And then the same goes for the right side of the cabinet base. And then, you guessed it, the back side of the cabinet base. Once the sides and back are all screwed to the bottom base, the sides and back are connected together with a couple more screws. And lastly, there's this small beam piece that gets screwed to the 2 sidewalls in the front. Pay attention to the up arrow on this part. And the magnets should be facing outwards. These are the upper magnetic door catches. Step 3. Assemble the hopper. Take this upper hopper assembly and set it atop the lower hopper assembly. Make sure it's facing the right way, with the hinges of the top hatch being on the same side as this little pellet cleanout door. Then screw the top assembly into place with 4 small bolts and lock nuts. And by the way, this video is simply meant to help visualize how it all goes together. You're still going to need to reference the assembly manual so you know specifically which of the provided nuts and bolts and screws and so forth you are meant to use for each step. Step 4. Attaching the smoke chamber atop the lower cabinet. Using 2 regular-sized people or 1 big ugly goon, lift the large grill chamber and place it on the lower cabinet. Make sure the large chamber door is facing the same direction as the front cabinet opening. Then attach the chamber to the base with 4 screws, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. Step 5. Installing internal temperature probe. I found this step in the manual to be slightly confusing, but I eventually figured it out. Inside the grill chamber is this metal rod wrapped in plastic. This thing is a temperature probe that needs to attach to the left side of the chamber. In this spot where it needs to attach, the required screws are already screwed into place, so I need to unscrew those 2 little screws and then set the temperature probe such that the metal rod faces upwards and the rod's little base plate lines up with the 2 screw holes. Then just screw it down with those 2 screws I removed, and as you set that probe into place, make sure that all the excess wire gets pushed down through the hole and to the outside of the chamber. Step 6. Mount the hopper to the chamber. With the grill chamber lid open, and with the required screws and washers within reach, slide the long rectangular part of the hopper into the square hole in the side of the grill chamber. You will have to support the weight of the hopper with either one hand or a second person while you get at least the first bolt screwed in, otherwise the entire hopper will fall right out. That's why I say to keep the needed hardware within reach. Also, the manual keeps referring to metal washers as, quote, gaskets. I'm not quite sure why, and I figure it's some artifact of whatever country or language this manual was originally written in, but most of the time when you read gasket in the manual, it's talking about a metal washer. One more note. The hardware kit comes with a couple of these flat, tiny wrenches. but I find them to be practically useless, so I'm using my own socket wrench instead. The included wrenches will work, but it'll be much faster and easier with a proper socket wrench. Once all 4 of the bolts that hold on the hopper assembly are in place and tightened, locate these 2 wires. One of the wires is from that temperature probe we mounted earlier, and the other comes from within the hopper assembly. Attach the 2 wires together via their wiring harness. Then I just sort of tucked these wires out of the way inside this narrow cavity between the hopper and grill chamber. Step 7. Attach the hopper's pellet hatch handle. Using 2 screws, attach the small metal handle to the front edge of the hatch lid. I somehow didn't have it in frame while shooting this step, but I'm sure you get the idea. Step 8. Attach the chamber door handle. Place a metal washer on the specified bolt and put that through the back of one of the holes in the front of the chamber door. Then from the front of the door, place one of these small steel bushings on the bolt. I'm not exactly sure what to call these things. The manual calls it a handle base. Anyway, position the handle in the correct orientation as seen here, and as you tighten the bolt from behind, make sure the end of the handle seats into that bushing thing. Then repeat for the other side of the handle, and that's it. Step 9. Attach the smokestack. Position the foam smokestack gasket over the mounting plate of the smokestack. And yes, the manual's use of the word gasket was actually appropriate this time. Anyway, make sure the screw holes in the gasket line up with the screw holes in the smokestack mounting plate, and then place the smokestack with gasket against the smoke hole in the grill chamber, again making sure the screw holes are all aligned. Then push the specified bolts through the screw holes from the outside and use a washer and nut to secure the bolts in place from the inside. And yes, the manual once again labels those metal washers as gaskets. Anyway, using 1 wrench on the inside nut and 1 wrench on the outside bolt, tighten each one down until quite snug. Note that as you tighten, the foam gasket will compress. Make sure they're tightened pretty snug, but you probably don't need to go out of your way to utterly and completely flatten that gasket to death. To attach the chimney cap, simply screw it onto the top of the smokestack using the integrated bolt. Step 10. Install the cabinet door handles. Just like with the grill chamber handle, each door handle attaches with a bolt, a washer, and a bushing thingy. Put the washer on the bolt, stick that through the back of the door, place the bushing thing on it, then screw one end of the handle in place. Repeat with the other end of the door handle, and then do the exact same thing for the other cabinet door. Step 11. Attach the doors to the cabinet. This step is very simple. Just make sure you're putting the correct door on the left and the correct door on the right. Locate the 2 small pins on the hinge side of each door. The bottom pin is fixed, while the top pin is spring-loaded. Place the bottom fixed pin into the small hinge hole in the cabinet's base, then press down the top spring-loaded pin and position the door into place. When the top pin finds the top hole, it'll snap into place and the door is now attached. Then simply repeat with the second door. Step 12. Positioning the heat baffle. This thing was pre-oiled at the factory and is indeed very oily, so I wore gloves to handle it. Making sure it's facing the correct direction, place it over the narrow brackets at the bottom of the grill chamber such that the open notches at the bottom of the baffle are facing to the right. Once they're set in place correctly, you can slide the whole baffle to the right about an inch, thereby locking it into place. Step 13. Positioning the grease tray. Once again, this part is super oily. This grease drain pan simply sets into place with the notched leg part being on the right and facing down, and the lip on the left side sitting over top of the thin ledge that's at the far left of the grill chamber. The whole grease pan is meant to slope downward to the right, such that grease from cooking food can drain out of the grease hole at the bottom right of the chamber. Step 14. Set in the grill grates. Just set in the 2 lower grates in their obvious spots atop the thin metal lip at the front and back of the chamber. Then put the upper warming rack in place by setting the 4 little prongs into the small brackets at the left and right of the chamber. Step 15. Hang the grease bucket. For this step, well, hang the grease bucket. Now the grill is 100% assembled, and my intention was to show the initial startup and burn-in procedure that must be done before the first cook. Tucked into the underside of the hopper assembly is the power cord. So after unraveling that and plugging it into an outlet, pressing the power button should power the thing up. But for my particular unit, nothing happens. Nothing on the screen whatsoever. Consulting the troubleshooting section of the manual, it gave 2 suggestions. 1, make sure it's plugged into an outlet that has power. And 2, check that the fuse inside of the unit is not blown. Well, to check that fuse, I must unscrew the control panel, and with barely any space to reach my fingers, remove the fuse housing, including the spare fuse that's zip-tied to the housing. Visually, the fuse looked fine, but just to be sure, I checked it with a multimeter, and that confirmed that the fuse was indeed fine. So I reached out to my contact at Z Grills, and they told me it seems likely that I got a bad controller panel. They said they'd send me a new one, and about 8 days later, my new panel showed up. I also mentioned to the company rep that I don't actually have any idea how to change out this panel, and they directed me to one of their instructional videos, and the procedure is a lot more annoying than I'd hoped it would be. So, to replace this controller panel, Step 1, remove all the grill grates from inside the chamber. Step 2, remove the grease tray and heat baffle from inside the chamber. Step 3, fish these thermometer probe wires out of that crevice and detach them via the wiring harness. Step 4, remove the bolts and washers by which the hopper unit attaches to the grill chamber and pull the entire hopper unit out of the grill. Step 5, set down the hopper unit upside down such that you can access the hopper's bottom cover. Step 6, remove the hopper's bottom cover by unscrewing these screws. Pull the cover away about as far as you can before the infuriating plastic grommet thing that holds the power cord in place prevents you from moving it any further out of the way. Step 7. Carefully cut all of these stupid zip ties holding all the wires together, taking great care not to cut any of the wires themselves. Step 8. Disconnect all these stupid wiring harnesses. Step 9. Unscrew the controller panel from the front of the unit. Step 10. Loosen these 2 screws on the back of the controller on the circuit board so these 2 wires can pull free. Step 11. Grab the new controller and stick those 2 white wires into the connectors and tighten into place. Note that the ends of those 2 wires look basically identical, so I used a tiny little X-Acto blade and marked one of them so I could tell which one goes into which position. I don't know if that matters, but I wanted to make sure to do it the same way it was already done. Step 12. Cram all of the wires from the new controller into the opening and screw the controller panel back into place. Step 13. Reconnect all of the stupid wiring harnesses, making sure that they're all plugged in to the proper harnesses. I took a bunch of photos with my phone before unplugging all of these harnesses to be extra sure that I was replugging them all in the correct way. Step 14. Using new zip ties that you have gone out and bought yourself, bundle up all those loose wires the best you can to keep them out of the way like they were before you removed the old zip ties. Try futilely to get them as neat and organized as they were from the factory, and then lament that there's no way you have the patience to make it not look like crap in there. Step 15. Put the bottom cover back in place and reattach it with the screws. Step 16. Plug in the unit and press the power button to verify that the replacement controller actually works. Step 17. Reinstall the entire hopper unit into the grill chamber. Step 18. Reattach the thermometer probe wiring harness and retuck those wires in. Step 19. Place the heat baffle, grease tray, and grill grates back into the chamber. Step 20. Get pretty annoyed that you had to do all this extra work even though it was the company's fault that they sent a broke grill in the first place. Okay, now that this grill is assembled and actually powers on, we can finally move forward and go through the initial startup and burn-in procedure. The first thing we have to do is, you guessed it, remove the grill grates, grease pan, and heat baffle. Yes, again! And the reason we do this is so we can access the fire pot, because all of these initial steps are basically to make sure everything is working properly. So after plugging in the grill and turning it on with the power switch, I'll set the control dial to the smoke setting. Looking straight down into the hopper, I want to confirm that the pellet auger is indeed turning. I also need to confirm that the fan is blowing and that I can feel the air blowing inside of the fire pot. Let it continue running on the smoke setting for a couple minutes. Somewhere around that time, you should be able to feel some heat coming from the fire pot area. Now we've confirmed that the auger, fan, and heat rod are all working. Next, fill the hopper up with some pellets. Turn the setting dial to high so the auger starts pulling some pellets into the fire pot a little quicker. It can still take a few minutes before pellets reach the fire pot, but once you observe some pellets reach the fire pot, turn the setting dial back to smoke. We want to observe some pellets start to burn, which is the last thing we need to confirm is working as intended. After you see flames start to come out of the fire pot, turn the setting dial to the shutdown cycle and leave it alone for a few minutes. It may take up to 10 minutes for the cycle to complete and for the fan to stop blowing. Only once the fan turns off is the grill fully shut down. Now the testing steps are complete and we can start the burn-in process. That is, firing this thing up and letting it just cook away for a while to burn off any factory oils and get it ready to actually cook some food. So place the heat baffle, grease pan, and grill grates back into the chamber, then turn the setting dial to smoke. Give it a few minutes, and once you start seeing some grayish smoke coming from the grill, crank the dial up to high and just let it smoke away for 45 to 60 minutes. After 45 to 60 minutes, turn the dial to the shutdown cycle, and that's it. The grill is ready to start using to cook food. I'm not really going to go into the steps for actually cooking anything in this video, but check out the other video that I released today, in which I provide a review of this exact smoker and go through all of the steps of smoking some meat on it. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future smoking and grilling videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.